I think this conversation about Donovan Mitchell, I'm so burned out on, well, he's leaving anyway. We should trade him. Can we get Poughkeepsie on the phone? Like, why are Utah Jazz fans so convinced that Donovan Mitchell wants to leave Utah? What is it? Like, where's the evidence? And I keep asking this question when we talk NBA and we talk Utah Jazz, like this Knicks trade. And where's the evidence that Donovan Mitchell wants out of Utah? Where's the evidence that Donovan Mitchell has ever demanded a trade? Where's the evidence that Donovan Mitchell has ever said, I want to leave Salt Lake City?
Yeah.
Where is that? Because we have talked to our Jazz sources for months on this. And we have been told repeatedly, Donovan Mitchell has never communicated to the Jazz he'd like to be traded.
Are we clear on that?
Donovan Mitchell has never communicated to the Jazz that he doesn't want to be here. Yet Jazz fans are convinced he's demanded a trade. He wants to be a Knick, that he wants to leave Utah. And I don't understand this victimhood mentality. Now, if you're going to tell me you're scarred from Gordon Hayward was a free agent. And Dennis Lindsey allowed him in restricted free agency to go out and kiss other women. And he fell in love. And ultimately, it was with a broken ankle in the Boston Celtics.
I want more.
But is that Gordon's fault or is that Dennis Lindsey's fault? And why do you boo Gordon Hayward every time he comes back to town? Because you play the victim card. Donovan Mitchell is not the same as Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy that Jazz fans are convinced he wants to leave.
Yeah, I just don't think he's given us any reason to think he wants to leave. And I think that this whole thing about Don leaving, and like yesterday on Twitter, there was this whole storm of tweets about how, Don's playing at this Miami Pro-Am run, and the fans are like, Don in Miami, they're like chanting at him while he's at the free throw line, and Don smiles, and everyone's like, yeah, it's so terrible that we got to have a guy on our team that wants to leave. And it's like, because the guy smiled because people were chanting at him, he wants to leave. He never said he wanted to leave. He never said, he hasn't asked for a trade. He hasn't done really anything that would suggest he's unhappy or asking to leave. And that's why I think it's so fascinating. We had, 2 weeks ago, the infamous, I'm getting texts and Don's being traded and we're burning it to the ground, and then nothing happened and Don still hasn't asked for a trade and he's still a Utah Jazz man. That's what we do in this town. That's what you do in the fan base. And it's incredible to me because, one of the things I think these star players consider on some level, it's probably not the most important thing to them, or most certainly it's not, but I think something you consider is the fan base from the standpoint of, hey, how long was I here? How much do the fans value me? And do I feel welcomed here in Salt Lake? And that, I think, for Don, is sort of a big deal in his situation because, as we've talked about with all the things he's tried to do off the court, he hasn't exactly been, welcomed with open arms. In fact, he's been criticized and really hated on. So, I don't know, man. I just am going to keep maintaining he hasn't asked for a trade. He's done nothing to suggest he wants to leave, yet we're all sitting here saying, Don wants to leave. I just don't know how that works.
I don't get that either. By the way, Giggity tweeted a picture of a cougar tail at us. And it is, in fact, a maple bar. It is, in fact, a maple bar.
Just saying. You now have to admit that you like maple bars.
I don't like maple bars.
How does that feel?
I don't like maple bars. I'm a man. I don't eat maple bars.
Okay, fuck you.
It is what it is. Thanks, Tony Montana. But I don't understand this victimhood out of Jazz fans.
Yeah.
I also don't understand, and I want to talk about this before we get into comments. I don't understand what Jazz fans want to happen with Donovan Mitchell. And I would love to have this conversation. What do you want ultimately to happen with Donovan Mitchell? My guess is he ends up in training camp with the Jazz. That's a guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still a chance they make the Knick deal. I think he ends up in training camp with the Jazz. I think, one, he left on vacation yesterday with his family, so I doubt he gets traded in the next 10 days. But I'm curious what Jazz fans want to happen.
Yeah.
Do Jazz fans want Donovan Mitchell traded? I do not. I think he is one of those guys that you don't value until he turns into an MVP candidate with another team.
But then you're going to resent him for turning into that MVP candidate.
You will boo him for that. I think if you're a Jazz fan, you should be desperate to keep Donovan Mitchell in a Jazz uniform. If you're a Utah Jazz fan, that's where your mind should be.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you that's not, or at least I don't think, that's where most Jazz fans will be.
Yeah, I think most Jazz fans are just saying, like, yeah, this guy wants to leave, so, let's trade him. Like, I hear that sentiment all the time. I see it all the time on Twitter. We get it in the comments sometimes. Like, we see that all the time. And I'm just telling you, man, like, when you have, because Don will leave eventually. I mean, whether it's by trade or he'll go to another team in free agency or whatever the case may be. I mean, I think we can all agree it's a reasonable expectation that he's not going to play here his whole career. But my point just is when he does leave, whenever that is, whether that's this year or 5 years from now, when you're a bottom feeder team again, just remember the days of Don and remember what Don did for the organization, because that is the contrast.
This is crazy in the comments.
Are we
It's
still on
crazy.
donuts?
Arlington Bear says Saratoga Springs Chipotle opened yesterday. I've never been. Might hit it up for lunch and need recommendations. If you've never been to a Chipotle, get a bowl. Get a bowl. Brown rice, black beans, chicken. If you're a meat eater, chicken. Then you want to get some queso. Then on top of that, if you like the fajita vegetables, get some veggies on top of the Chipotle or on top of the cheese.
Yeah, the queso.
The queso, thank you. Get the queso, then get the fajita vegetables, then get the pico, and that's it. I'm not doing the corn anymore. Stop. I'm not doing the corn salsa anymore, but you can if you like. I also don't do guac or sour cream because there's too many calories in it. Brown rice, black beans, chicken, queso, fajita vegetables, 2 scoops of pico. Pound it. You'll thank me later. Mike Maple says Dunkin' over Krispy Kreme. I miss those shops here.
Agreed.
Okay.
Dunkin' over Krispy Kreme for sure.
Okay. Round one says, this is a tasty maple bar. That's a reference to this is a tasty burger.
Right. That's a reference to this is a tasty burger. I get it.
And Royce Griffith says, no love for the apple fritter. Oh, please. Please. I love the apple fritter. I just don't get to eat them very often.
Right.
Dale Donut says, Donovan wants to leave. He's upset about Utahns not clearing snow off of their cares.
Right.
Okay. I don't think Don wants to leave, but that's just me. A lot of Utahns had their hearts broken by Dear John letters, so it's easier for them to blame the star. Wow.
Yeah.
Talking with Raphael, podcast of Utah Jazz fans treat Don like the way too hot girl. He's out of my league type of players and don't believe we have an elite player like him. You don't.
Yeah, because you don't.
You don't.
You don't.
But I do agree that there's a stigma in Utah Jazz fandom that says, oh, he's too good for us. We'll never win.
I just don't understand that, man. Like,
I don't be that guy. Trust me. Kenai Johnson, you ever notice that when a player leaves the Jazz, they never play at the same level as they did here in Utah? Why is that? Well, that could very well be. Gordon Hayward's never been the same. He's the best example of it. Ennis Freedom, Cantor guy, he was terrible from the beginning. What about Rudy Gobert? What happens to Rudy Gobert? That I think it does remain to be seen. Teddy Wayman with a $5 tip this morning. Thank you, Teddy. He says, as a lifelong Jazz fan, I appreciate Donovan more than any other Jazz player ever. He's legit. I hope we don't trade him.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Man, you guys are crazy with the donut comments. Unbelievable. Robert Lambert says the casuals do. We don't want to trade Don. I don't think all Jazz fans devalue Don or are dumb enough to think he wants to leave, but the loud minority definitely do. I would agree with that. Giggity says, don't be afraid to ask for extra beans and rice. Absolutely, you should. And when they skimp on the chicken, say, hey, can I get a little more chicken, please? And they'll give it to you.
Even if they have to roll their eyes and sigh about doing it.
Yeah. Colby says, Don is maybe 2 on a championship team. Trade him while his stock is high.
Okay, I can get down with that conversation. I can at least get down with that. Yeah. I wouldn't trade him, to be clear, but I can at least understand that.
Lokeman says that you should get a bowl at Chipotle.
Agreed.
Okay. Dale Donut says Donovan Mitchell will leave once bacon goes missing on his maple bar.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Donovan Mitchell is a maple bar guy. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Okay.
This is
A tasty maple bar.
No, there's no such thing as a tasty maple bar.
Yes, there is.
No. Well, not if you have testicles.
Hey, look here, man.
As men, we know better. Steve Peterson says, I love that he is at least trying to bring a different point of view to the state. It's irrelevant if you think his point of view is right or wrong. It's just trying to get people to understand. Well, yeah. And I think it's really important that we as Utahns embrace outside perspective. I think we can be insular a little bit in this state. And I think that we don't always like the exchange of ideas. And I think it's really important to have an open exchange of ideas.
Absolutely.
I think that's huge. Utah Jizz says.
Well, okay. Utah Jizz
says Reams Texas-sized donuts. The real ones know.
Who the f*** is that guy?
Okay.
What kind of name is that?
Greg Hawkins says Parker Murray made a comment about this schedule. Parker Murray said it's crazy that you can say Utah's schedule is much more difficult than BYU's. The only potentially scary games are Florida, Oregon, and USC. If you're worried about San Diego State, then P12 is weaker than they thought. San Diego State might, I don't know, be good.
They're a good team, bro.
They are. Greg Hawkins said, hey, Parker, it's because BYU is playing literally 5 G5 teams in an FCS.
Yeah.
Could be. Could be. I mean, you know. Anyway. Kanai Johnson says the Jazz fans that want Don traded are the same fans that are okay with making the playoffs. Just making the playoffs. I agree with that.
Yeah.
By the way, I also want to get to this Knicks thing. Are the Knicks in real trouble here? Because the NBA is investigating the Knicks for tampering related to their signing of Jalen Brunson. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson's dad is a guy named Rick Brunson, who is an assistant coach for the New York Knicks. Does anybody know who Jalen Brunson's godfather is? Well, that'd be Leon Rose, the president of the New York Knicks.
Is he important at all?
So the question is, we're all sitting around at Thanksgiving last year, and Leon won. He was able to break the wishbone, and he won the wishbone. And he said, Jalen, my wish is that you would come to the Knicks. Tampering! You can't. You're sitting around having dinner, talking about basketball. You and your son, are sitting at a ball game or hanging out, and you're talking about, hey, Dad, congratulations on your new job with the Knicks. Wouldn't it be great if you could coach me one day? Like, that's tampering? How are you going to prove tampering?
Yeah.
How are you going to prove tampering here? Now, I understand that Jalen Brunson signed with the Knicks before, when the clock is at exactly 12 midnight, before it was 12 midnight and 1 second, the ink was dry on the paper.
Right.
Okay, I totally get that.
Yeah.
They got the jump. He canceled meetings. Totally understand it. But if you're Jalen Brunson, are you signing anywhere else?
Nah.
You're probably not.
Nope.
Your dad works for the team. Your godfather's the president of the team. You're probably going to go there.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Right? Now, if Donovan Mitchell was a free agent, I could totally understand why he'd end up with the Knicks. He's from there. His dad works for the Nets. His former agent works there. I get that. He's not a free agent. But are you telling me that the New York Knicks are going to be found guilty of tampering with Jalen Brunson of all people? I just don't buy it.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think it's just funny that they're being investigated for it. It just feels very Knickish, if you will.
You know what it feels like? It feels procedural. Like we have to do this.
Yeah.
That's what it.
Yeah.
That's what it. And this is that CBA thing we talked about with Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Can you really tell me if you're an owner of an NBA team that you think you should have control of the players?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the owners just are tired of being screwed over. They're tired of signing Kevin and Kyrie and all these huge names in LeBron and all these huge names, only to have them leave. And I think what's so interesting to me is this is one of the things that I think LeBron has going for him. LeBron has never left early. LeBron has always fulfilled his commitment. He has always played out his contract years. And that's just the guy he's been. But I think you look at a lot of these other players, Kevin Durant, most notably, and I'm a Kevin Durant guy, but most notably Kevin Durant, he's someone who's guilty of leaving early. So that's why I say, can they really control players? Probably not. Can they ask for it? Can they try to get it done? Absolutely. And that's what I think they're going to do. So again, if you're a Jazz fan, looking at this Donovan Mitchell situation, how different would this situation be? How different would you feel if it wasn't even an option for Donovan Mitchell to ask out? If it wasn't a possibility that he could ask out or demand a trade? would you feel a little more confident, or would you be saying, well, we know we can't ask out, but we know he doesn't want to be here, so screw Donovan Mitchell, right? That's probably what we would be hearing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's really interesting, at least in my opinion, that this thing with trying to control player movement, you have no control. You'll never have control.
Yeah.
You can put this in the CBA, and what good's it going to do you? You're going to put in situations like one of the things that I've heard proposed is that you would put in a 2-year ban. Once a player signs a max contract, they can't change teams for 2 years. Why would the players agree to that? And B, what if you have a disgruntled player? You're going to stick with that player for 2 years? Like, this doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, I think what they're saying is that they want to be the one to make the choice whether they should trade the guy or not the other way around where the player's just forcing the trade.
But this is a players' league.
Yeah.
This is a players' league. And how much control does Kevin Durant have of his situation right now?
Not very much.
None. Kevin Durant doesn't have any control of his situation.
He's faced with a kind of a difficult situation, if we're being honest. Like, go back and not get traded before the season starts and just play basketball.
Why? The thing I don't understand is, why do players control the league? Well, they control the league because they're the asset.
Yeah, they're the product.
The owner's the liability. I don't think that many people understand that. The owner is the liability in the NBA. The player is the asset. Does it always work out? No, it doesn't. Players have busted routinely.
Yeah.
But if you're Kevin Durant, is Joe Tsai or Kevin Durant the asset? Well, I guarantee you Kevin Durant's the asset. Nobody's shown up to watch Joe Tsai play basketball. Nobody's shown up to watch Joe Tsai count his billions.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant's the asset. LeBron's the asset. Donovan's the asset. It's just that simple. And the problem is, I think, perception versus reality here.
As usual.
As usual, you have billionaire owners who think they're the most important cog in the wheel. And I got news for you. You're not the most important cog in the wheel. You're not. Jimmy Dolan, you're the reason the Knicks haven't won. Jerry Jones, you're the reason the Cowboys haven't won. The McCaskey family, you're the reason the Bears haven't won. I mean, it's endless. It is endless. And it's a Chicago sports fan. Trust me when I say Jerry Reinsdorf is the reason the Chicago Bulls haven't won. The Ricketts family, those turds in a toilet, are the reason the Cubs haven't won.
Yeah.
It's not because of Wilson Contreras. It's not because of Dak Prescott. Right? It's not. The players are the asset. The owners are usually the liability. And I think owners have a tough time coming around to that.
Yeah. And I think it's funny, too, like, this concept, I feel like, applies to the Pac-12 conversation we were having. You know,
yes.
George Kliavkoff thinks that the Pac-12 is just some ridiculously valuable conference and thinks that it's sliced bread.
But what else
would
he say?
Well, I agree. What else would he say? Totally agree with that. But there is a fine line that you can play. Like, I think it's totally acceptable for him to say something like, yeah, you know, there are things that we have to work on. We got to get better in these areas if we plan on surviving. But he didn't say that. Instead, what he said was, "Oh yeah, we're in great shape. We are moving forward and pressing ahead, even though we're probably not going to be here in 5 seasons." Like,
yeah,
you know, and that's what I feel like sometimes owners in the NBA kind of want. They want this dynamic where everything can always be positive and they can be in control and it's their league. And it's like, no, dude, it's not your league. You have the money. You bought a team. But Ryan Smith doesn't control how Donovan Mitchell shoots a basketball or how he chooses to get into it with the officials, right? Ryan Smith doesn't control the actual product you see on the court. So I just think that these guys with money, man, they have power and they want that power to go too far sometimes. They want to overextend.
Yeah, I totally agree. By the way, don't forget we're sending 2 listeners. Well, 1 listener and a +1 because only 1 listener is going to win. We're sending a listener and a +1 to Las Vegas to win to see. Okay, hi. Hey, just want to remind you not to forget about our BYU driveway to see BYU and Notre Dame at the Shamrock Series in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. It is a beautiful stadium if you have not been. And you're going to win a pair of tickets to the game. 2 nights at the Palms Resort and Casino, as well as a $250 gas card to get you there. All courtesy of the Monty Show and our good friend Devry Davis at Academy Mortgage. I tell you this every day. You have got to support our local businesses. Support the show by supporting our advertisers and ad partners that support this show. And Devry Davis is our first ad partner on this show. Devery Davis is the best mortgage guy in Utah. I guarantee that. He's written 3 mortgages for me. He has guided me through a very difficult real estate process. And that's why I trust Devery Davis with my mortgage, and you can too. Call Devery Davis today. 801-543-9666. 801-543-9666. And the thing with Devery is you get personal service, right? So you're not going to be a number in a large pool. You flip on the radio and you hear all these people talking about all these mortgage places.
Yeah.
It's different with Devery Davis. Devery is a guy who you can text directly. You can call him. You can always talk to him. He answers his phone. He calls you back. He texts you back. When you're trying to buy a house in a competitive market like we have here in Utah, you need somebody that you can text and say, hey, I'm sitting in front of this house. You know, tell me the situation on this property. And Devery's going to look it up and he's going to call you and he's going to say XYZ123. Yeah, hey, here's what I think about it. Hey, is it HOA? Is it FHA? Can you get a 30-year? Can you do conventional? Is it eligible for a jumbo FHA? Like all of these different questions in the mortgage game that you need answers to quickly. Devery Davis at Academy Mortgage can get you those answers and put you in the best outcome when you are buying a house, because ultimately that's what you need. It is the single largest purchase of your life. Don't trust your mortgage and your financial future and well-being of your family to just anybody. Call Devery Davis at Academy Mortgage. 801-543-9666. NMLS number 278545. Devery Davis and Academy Mortgage are equal housing lenders, and they bring you the BYU Notre Dame Shamrock Series drive-away. Now, here's how you enter. Go to any barbecue pit stop in the Valley. What does that mean? Logan, Lehigh, Layton, Salt Lake, and St. George. Go to any of those barbecue pit stops. Right on the counter, there is an Enter to Win box. Fill out the slip, drop it in the box, then come and join us September 17th at Barbecue Pit Stop in Lehigh to watch to watch BYU and Oregon. We're going to have a watch party. We'll have wings, we'll have pizza, we'll have smokers there. And then at halftime of the game between Oregon and BYU,
Yes.
we are going to draw the winner of the trip for 2 to Las Vegas to see BYU and Notre Dame in the Shamrock Series at Allegiant Stadium, thanks to our friends at Barbecue Pit Stop. So go to any barbecue pit stop in the Valley, fill out the slip, drop it in the box, and then join us at the Barbecue Pit Stop in Lehigh on September 17th to watch BYU and Oregon, and we'll draw the winner there.
Bots.
Oh, the bots are back? Oh, man.
Bots
See,
are back, bro.
Yesterday, a couple of people said, hey, man, you're doing it right. If you're getting bots, you're doing it
Is that
right.
actually true, though? Is that true? If you're getting bots, that's a good sign, like as far as like notoriety and stuff?
I guess.